Hello, everybody, and welcome back. My name is Peter, and I'm going to be your session host. Now, in a minute, we're going to be looking at a recording of Sargis's presentation because there's a lot of content to get through, and he's going to be showing lots of different things through there. But before we do, just a quick reminder, please continue to use the chat function to share comments and ask questions through Q&A. So then, to quickly introduce Sargis. Well, Sargis has been in the software industry for about 10 years and also working in web automation development for about 7 years, and before switching to the mobile industry. He is an agile and team worker believer with experience working in distributed international teams using agile, Scrum, and Kanban methodologies. And Sargis was part of industry specializing in mobile, web, software as a service, and enterprise applications. And he's had a chance to work in lots of different locations around the world. Now, in our recorded presentation, Sargis is going to discuss Appium Dockerization from scratch to advanced implementation. So he'll explore a lot of the advantages and disadvantages of Appium and Docker Android and how to get started with Docker Android and run some sample tests. So without further ado, I'm going to be going off in a second, but I will come back for the live Q&A. But can I ask, can we start Sargis's presentation? Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be part of this conference and actually would like to see you guys next year offline. But yeah, today we'll run this talk online about the Appium Dockerization from the scratch to the advanced implementation. Let's go on. A few words about myself. I'm Sargis, working as a director of quality assurance at the PixArt, and I'm working in this field already more than 12 years. Started with quality engineering, mainly on automation. In my career, working by the international companies, and have been working with the American, Czech, German, and Armenian companies. So today I will try to share my experience regarding the Appium Dockerization and how actually we deal with it. So basically, today's agenda is the following. We'll start a bit about the introduction, how we are getting started, and basically why Appium, why Dockerization, etc. Then we'll talk about the Appium Docker, which is the Dockerization of the Appium server. Then we'll talk about how we are running our test on the real devices using the Appium Docker. Then I will show you some implementation of the Docker Compose, which will help you to collect all the configurations in one file and then easily to spin it up and then shut it down. We will talk about emulator in the Docker, how we can open the emulator in the Docker. Later, we will talk about some tricks, how we can do the SMS simulation on the emulator, which will help you to test some cases which requires to get the SMS, for example, the SMS code. Then we'll continue with the Selenium Hub, how we spin up the Selenium grid and how we register this Appium service as a node in the Selenium Hub. And then we'll continue to the Appium host, and you will see the grid basically connected to the our Appium servers. And then in the end, we will run the tests also in the emulator, which will be opened inside the Docker container, basically. And in the end, I will be available for you guys for the question and answer, and we can discuss any topics that you would like to regarding this talk. First of all, I know that everyone knows about the testing pyramid, and this is something that we will also always keep in mind while we are doing the automation, because anything that will done incorrectly later will become a headache for us. So basically, if there is a possibility to do the browser testing for when you have the responsive design and the mobile is the mobile hybrid app, so all the parts that are possible to test with the browser, it's better go with the browsers. All the cases that is possible to the emulator and simulators. So we need to put this level of the testing with this. And devices, the real devices, that's the next level of the amount of the tests. Basically, it's real devices. And then the last one is the real life conditions, which means it's manual testing. So this is kind of the battery conditions, GPS conditions, or kind of NFC touch, etc. So we need to keep in mind that we need to push up the test layering down. So if there is a possibility to do the in the lower levels, we need to go to the lower levels. Of course, this is kind of the mobile test pyramid, so it's a bit different, but again, for the complex applications, there should be a lower level like the integration test, the API test, and unit tests, and then on top of that will go this pyramid. Basically, this is very important, because if we will push all the automation tests with the real devices and we will make the cone instead of the pyramid, that will be headache for us in the future, and then the maintenance of the test will be really, really hard. Yeah, why we need this approach? Basically, it's very easy and quick to set up the automation environment. So we do with the Dockering, and as you know, the Docker environment setup is very fast and efficient. You just spin up the Docker container, and that's all. This is speed up the Appium run. And basically you can easily up the environment, Appium down, and then you can easily create a new environment for every run, which will keep your test very fast. The automation steps will be done automatically. So basically we will create some automatic scripts which will spin up this environment and then turn down. And of course, this approach allows you to run your test on the real devices on the emulators. And the next question is, why is Appium? So Appium is the powerful framework which allows us to test mobile application, and not only mobile application, because with the Appium we can also work with TVA soft and other Robotium apps. So basically, in this talk, we are talking about the mobile application, and Appium is also allows us to work with the hybrid applications. So if there are some embedded web parts, we can also switch these views and test both approaches. And of course, Appium is open source. You can contribute on it. If there is anything that you can fix, you can easily go and fix in an open source project. It gives the ability to run against multiple platforms, so you don't need to have different for the Appium for the Android and the iOS. And with the very good implementation of the page objects pattern and the page factory, basically you can have one page object per for two platforms, which is helping us to avoid code duplication. So basically, for example, in our case at PixArt, we are creating one page object for two platforms, basically. And this makes very easy to maintain everything and to keep the code shorter than it should be. Yeah, and of course, it drives iOS, Android, Windows, as I already mentioned, and it's used the web protocol, which makes easy to write the tests with the framework. So let's go through the basic stuff in the beginning to understand basically how the Appium architecture is working. So the first part, as you see, is the test runner, which is connecting to the Appium server with the API, and the Appium server communicates with the phone by ADB commands using the USB connection. Basically, this is the main architecture of the Appium. So when we talk about Appium Dockerization, so it means that we put this Appium on the ADB part of this structure inside the Docker container. So basically, for every phone connected to the test environment is connecting through the one Docker container, and inside the Docker container we have the Appium and the Android Development Bridge (ADB), and which allows us to connect the test through the Docker machine to phone. Good. So getting started with the Appium Docker. Okay, I will present the steps that you can follow these steps easily and create the same environment for you guys. And basically, these steps that I'm showing it for the Mac OS, but for other operation systems, you can, I mean, it will be similar. You can follow and find out the steps for you. So first of all, we need to make sure that we have Docker machine installed in our computer. So when we run the Docker machine -- version, it will show us if we have installed and the version is there. This is the first one. And the next one, so we are creating one virtual box for the Appium test machine. And this command will help you to create the virtual box called Appium test machine in your computer. Okay. So basically, when you run this command, you will see these logs, which shows that it's creating and then starting the VM. So the virtual machine is starting and on your computer. When you open the virtual box, you will see that there is a running Appium test machine, which means that we successfully were able to spin up this machine. To be able to connect your phone to the computer USB and map this USB port to the USB of the virtual machine, we need to enable the USB for the Docker machine. To be able to enable this USB, first of all, we need to stop this machine. When we stop the machine, we can run the command vbox manage modify VM, and we are mentioning the name of the machine, and then we are just saying that we need to turn on the USB. Yeah. In case of unsuccessful run of the command, just make sure that you install extension pack depending on your VirtualBox version. So when you install the VirtualBox, you also need to download the extension pack and install also the extension pack. Okay. So when you run, it just says nothing. If there is no error, it means it's fine. It was done. Okay, so and then you will see this when we start again the virtual machine, then you will open these ports and you will see that the USB is available there. You go to this small button and then just add the Android, saying like mapping the physical port of the computer to the virtual port of this virtual box. And then to be able to connect from the ADB of your virtual machine, first of all, you need to kill your ADB server, which is running on your local machine. So basically, to kill your ADB server from the local machine, you need to go to the terminal and run ADB kill server. Yeah, it again will say nothing. If there is no error, then the killing the server was done successfully. After that, from the Docker machine, we are SSHing to the Docker machine. So which means Docker machine SSH, and we are giving the name of them of the Docker machine. And then we are SSHing to the from virtual machine. From the inside of the Docker machine, we just do Docker execute Appium container ADB devices, which means that as I already showed you in the architecture that it's running inside the Docker container, and this Docker container is running under the container dash Appium. We need to run the ADB commands from inside the container. So basically we are inside the container, Docker container, which is inside the Docker machine. And when we run this command, you will see that it will show that your device, which is connected physically to your Mac or physical machine, it will show the ID of the device from the inside of the Docker container. Yeah. And then when the first time you connect to your device, you will see this pop-up on your phone. You just check the always allow from this computer, and then okay, then you are allowing the this machine to send the ADB commands to your phone. So to run the Appium Docker in the Docker machine, we will need to use the following command. So Docker run, and when we are matching the ports and then matching mapping the directories, and then saying that the container name and Appium. This will run the Appium server inside the machine, Appium machine. So basically, when we do the Docker PS, we will see that the container is running there. Yeah. So to be able to run the mobile application tests, we will need this mobile application in the Docker. So before running anything, we are just copying the application to the container. So to do this, you will need to run Docker copy cp. You give the path from your local machine, and then you say that I want to copy this file to put inside the container Appium opt folder. Yeah. And then when we are running the test, you see that the capabilities of the mobile app sets to opt pixar.apk. So this means that we are showing they are showing the place of the IPK inside the Docker. As the Appium will run from the Docker container, this application should be near to it. So it will have the visibility to install this application to your phone. Yeah. And then when, after all, we can see when we run the Maven tests and pointing that it should run with the Docker, you can see that the application will be opened in the phone, and you can do some like your test and get out from it. Basically, this test was run with the following approach. So the Appium server itself right now for this test case run, running in the Docker machine inside the Docker container. There is two levels. And then it's push all these Appium commands to the phone, which is connected to your physical machine. Okay. So let's go ahead and check the other options that with the Selenium grid. So for the Selenium grid, of course, we need to first of all create the Selenium grid and run the Selenium grid, and basically to register this Appium server in the Selenium grid, we need to pass the following parameters when we are running this Docker container. The first one is connect to the grid. We are putting true. We are giving the Appium host. We are giving the Appium port, which is we created in Docker. We are giving the Selenium host and Selenium port. Basically, it will look like this, the command. So we are running again to privileged. We are giving the port and then saying that the connect to the grid is true. Appium host is the local host. The port is 4723. And for the Selenium host, is the IP, and then Selenium port is 44. Again, we are mapping the directories and then naming the container as a container Appium, and then running the Appium Docker. As this command is very complex, we can use the Docker compose file to make it a bit easier and nicer. And later it will also be easy to run. So if you have this file, anytime you call the Docker compose up, it will create all this environment for you. And when you want to turn it down, you call the Docker compose down. It's exactly the same as the comment in previously shown. So the first part of it is services. So the first one, we are spinning up the Selenium hub, and then spinning up the Appium Android. So this one is using the Selenium hub image and running on a 444 port, which is mapping also to the local port. And then we are running the Appium Android device. We are using the Appium image. So we say that this depends on Selenium hub to make sure that the Selenium hub will be up. Only after that, this Docker container will start running. And then we are doing exactly the same mapping of the volumes. And then we are saying that the environment to grid is true and Selenium host is the Selenium hub. Yeah. So when we do the Docker compose up, we do the -t to go background, it will create exactly the same as you run that long command. So Docker compose is actually making easy to collect all this configuration in one file and then easily call a simple command and run. So I think most of you know, and some of you maybe not, but instead of doing these wired and USB connections, you can do the Wi-Fi connection, and you can run the ADB commands through the Wi-Fi connection to your phone. I did this experiment a while ago, and it was not quite stable, but for the debugging purposes, when you use several phones and you don't want to connect all of them to the computer, this works very fine. Sorry. So here are the steps to here are the steps that will allow us to connect the Android device to the computer via the Wi-Fi. So we will not need, in this case, the USB. Basically, we are from the computer. We are running ADB TCP/IP 5555, and then we are running ADB Connect, and we are checking the IP of the device. So it's from the network settings. We are checking the IP, and we run ADB Connect and IP, and then when you run the ADB devices, you will see your phone in that it's connected to your computer. So basically, it's here we do the ADB TCP/IP 555, and then it says that it's starting on the port, and then we say ADB connect, and this is the local IP of my phone. This is the IP which the phone using to be to connect in the network. And then when we say connect, it says connected, and then ADB devices, you will see the device connected to your computer. So basically, with this approach, we can through the Wi-Fi connection, we can run the Appium test. So basically, with this approach, you will not need to connect your phone directly to your computer. And this is the example of running the test with the Wi-Fi connection. So in this run, actually, it's, as you see here in the logs, we are using this device, which is connected via the Wi-Fi. and you can see that we can easily run the Appium test through the Wi-Fi. Here we go. So there was 3 tests, and all of them were passed. Good. So let's go a bit more with the steps how we can run the test in the emulator within the Docker container. This is more interesting in a complex case. So actually, why we need this one? When we run the website with the run UI test for the mobile website with the Appium, it's super easy to use the emulators. You don't need the real devices. When for example, Android project and run unit test with the latest build tools, so you can easily change the build tools versions and stuff, and just run on the emulator. This is very comfortable when there is a new version, for example, for the Android, and your phone didn't get the update yet. But of course, the emulator will be available for you, so you can use it. We can run the UI test for Android application with the different frameworks. I mean, it doesn't necessary to use only Appium. We can also do Robotium, Espresso. So we can do some random monkey and the stress testing. And of course, with this approach, we can also test the SMS. So we can send a short message to the phone and then read it from the phone. And then if there is some integration with the SMS, for example, sending the code and then filling the code, so we can also test this one. Well, let's see how we can work. The advantages. So we don't need the VNC to install. When when we run all this environment, we can go from the browser with the specific URL and like the IP, and we can see the screen of the mobile, and we can see how the tests are running inside the Docker container on the emulator. So ability to connect to Selenium grid. This also can be easily connected to the Selenium grid. This approach also supports real devices with the screen mirroring. So we can also connect some device and we can mirror the display of this device in the no VNC page. Ability to record the videos during the test execution and debugging. So we can also record everything, and then we can take a look and find out if there was some issue during the run. And this solution can be integrated with the cloud solutions, for example, with the Genymotion cloud. So if you use it, you can integrate it. And again, this is open source. So again, if you have any improvements, you can go and you can make the changes in the open source projects. Everyone will be happy. Good. This project supports the following fonts. So this is the range of the fonts. Again, this could be changed over time. And of course, if you want to contribute, this is something that you can add something new in this, add something new in this supported devices list, and you can contribute to the open source project. So basically, how we are running this. There is one thing that you will not be able to run this exactly on the Mac if you are using the Intel chip, but you can use this approach with the AMD CPUs. So basically, the examples that I'm showing, it's done in the desktop with the AMD CPU and with the Ubuntu OS. So basically, you are running Docker, giving the 6080 port, mapping another port, and then mapping third port. We are saying that we want to run on the Samsung Galaxy S6, and we name it Android container, and then we give the image of the Docker. So when we run this, we will see that the container is up and running. So when we go to the 6080 board, we will see this. Basically, we will see the screen of the device and we will see the controls. In any case, we can always do also do the manual testing here. To control the real device connected to it, we can do the command, but we need to we need to run with the image Docker Android real device. This will create a place for the real device, and then you can connect your real device, and it will be next to this emulator. So basically, you can connect with this following command to see the devices. Yeah, and then let's see how we can do this SMS simulation. The first one, we just execute the command. Oops, sorry. We execute the command saying that in the Android container, we just take this token, emulator token. And then when we copy this emulator token, we do the telnet Docker machine IP address and 5554 port. And then we run the authentication, and pass the token that we copied already. And then we send the SMS, phone number, and the message. Basically, it looks like the following. So you see that we do the Docker exec and we cutting the token. We do the telnet localhost 55554, and then it's trying to connect and then connecting. And authorization says that it's required. Then we are running the next command is authentication with the token, and it says okay, and then we say the SMS send the number from which will be sent and the message. And when you run this command, you will see in the screen of the emulator that the emulator received the message from the number with the message that you sent. This is for some simple cases to run the tests or even do the manual testing that will be required sending the SMS. So you can do these simple steps. You can do these simple steps to actually test the integration with the messages. Good. Let's talk a bit about Selenium Hub and wrap it up this talk. So basically, we can spin up the Selenium grid, and we can register as Chrome nodes, as Android nodes, and then run the tests web or the mobile on the spot. Basically, this is the Docker command which is running the Selenium Hub. So when you run this command, then you will have the Selenium grid running on the Docker container. And then when you open, of course, you will see this screen. And then you can later connect all these nodes to the grid. So basically, we talked today about the Appium, Docker, emulator, and Selenium grid. So let's combine all these four solutions that we today talk about and show one example that using all these solutions. Basically, this is the Docker compose file, which has the three configuration of the Docker containers. The first one is Selenium Hub. So we are running the Selenium Hub, the first one. Then we are running one Docker container, which will be connected to the real device, saying that image is Appium, and it depends to the Selenium Hub, which means that it will wait until Selenium Hub will be ready before running this one. So we give the network mode, privileged, again, the volumes and the environment. And the third one is the emulator. So the third one will be Nexus 7.1.1. Will run inside the Docker, the emulator. So basically, we will have one hub, one real device connected, and one emulator. And when we do the Docker compose up, you will see that the Docker hub is created, the real device container is up, and the Nexus is up. When we do the Docker PS, we will see that we have these 3 containers up and running. After all, you can go to the grid and you can see that there is one device is connected and one emulator is connecting. Okay. So if we will combine all of these solutions that we were talking about, we will have the following. So right now we are running a test. We are running a test which will run on the emulator, which is inside the Docker, and Docker is actually inside the Docker machine. So right now it's running, I guess, 3 tests. So the second would pass, and the last one is going to be run. Okay. So, and then we run the 3 tests, and 3 of them are passed. Good. I guess that's all. If you will have any question regarding the solutions, or you would like to reach me out, you will just feel free to email me or send a message on Twitter or in the LinkedIn. And now it's a time for your questions. So I will be happy to answer any question regarding to this topic. Thank you. Yep.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. That was a great presentation, Sargis. Thank you very much for that. I'm sure that people will be pleased to know that that's a recording you can watch back later, because it was absolutely packed with really good information and advice. Now, I just want to remind everybody, we've got a couple of minutes, so if you do have a question, please pop it into the Q&A channel. But the first question is here. So, Sargis, have you tried to use Appium Dockerization with iOS devices using a simulator or a real device? Was it successful, and is it easy to maintain?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a really good question, but unfortunately, like iOS doesn't support the Dockerization, so we cannot use the same approach for the iOS devices. Yeah, but in the parallel on this, I mean, we can do all this stuff for the Android, and then use the direct implementation without the Dockerization for iOS. Basically, this is what we do in our company, as the iOS doesn't support Dockerization.
I think that answers the next question, which is it possible to run iOS simulators through Docker?
Yeah, it's the same question, I guess. Yeah, unfortunately, iOS doesn't support Dockerization, so I will be very happy to see this kind of the solutions for the iOS too.
Yeah, I think it's something we would all look forward to. So I have a question for you myself, actually, Sargis, and it's this one. Is there an ideal client for Appium, or a recipe for success? So, what would you look for in a client?
Oh, that's a great question, and yeah, from my personal experience, I would say that the recipe for the success is taking the start of the implementation very serious. Make sure that you are actually creating the framework before creating the test cases, because usually I see that people start the creation of the test cases without thinking about seriously thinking about the framework, and then after several months we have several hundred of the test cases which are not manageable, not readable, and it's very hard to maintain it. And then they are coming to them to the point that they need to create again the framework. So basically, this, for me, the success of them, the recipe to success is from the beginning, take it serious, create them, like take some senior people who are like senior developers in test, and create this framework based on your application, based on your specific needs. And then after that, start the creation of the test cases. Basically, from my experience, I would say that in some cases, when we start the automation for the new project, it could take from 1 to 2 months, the creation of the framework itself. And then after that, we start writing the test cases. And as an example, I would say that on the mobile platforms right now, we run about 3,000 test cases within the 4 hours, which allows us to get this result within the 4 hours because of our strong framework that we built it.
Great, thank you very much, Sargis. I can see we've had another question about people asking for the link to the video. It will be provided by the organizers, so just keep watching. I've got another question for you, and it's this really. You know, in a world of agile in which we live at the moment, and there's a huge amount of transformation and lots of people are looking at new ways of engaging, does that have an impact in the way that you use Appium or Dockerization? You know, how well does it support agile versus perhaps something which is more based around, we have very specific requirements, you know, they're well understood in advance. So how do you deal with those emerging requirements and test cases?
Oh, that's a very specific question to the specific project. It depends in which project. Basically, yeah, there are a lot of agile processes which are against the automation processes that we do, because the automation needs to have, you know, the structured place to be able to automate something, because that should be stable. But in agile world, it's a bit hard. And in our experience, it's also super hard, because when we release something, it doesn't mean that user will see. And in some point, we can turn on the feature, and then the user will see it. And you never know when to automate it and when to, you know, check it. When it's time to check that it works for the user or not. So basically, again, here we have very good structure of like framework that is supporting us to do it. I mean, we created one like framework which allows us to turn on and off any feature that we need. Basically, what we do, we try to check all the combinations that user could in some point see, and making sure that, for example, this button has a tree view, and we are checking this tree view and allowing the agile processes to turn whatever they want and how they want to change. And then we are just making sure that all of them are checked. This is some kind of the duplication work, but this is what we do for this kind of the cases. And the kind of the cases which are very short solution, we try to keep it manual. We never do the automation for the very short, I mean, for 1 month checks. And when we just have a A/B testing winning and stuff, and then we are thinking about the automation. This is I mean, with the agile, we are trying to be also agile. The quality engineering. So the quality engineering itself contains like the manual work and the automation work, but all over together for the quality engineers, I have the same vision. So we need to like our vision should be also be agile with the development processes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Sargis. I can see we've had another couple of questions, but unfortunately we've run out of time because we've got our next session coming up. But all that really remains for me to do at this point is to once again thank you so much for a great presentation, Sargis. Absolutely understand why it was pre-recorded. You put so much into that. That if we were going to cram it into 35 minutes or so, you had to do a pre-record. But it was wonderful. I learned a heck of a lot. So thank you for that. Thank you, everybody, for watching on this session. We're going to get ready now for the next session. So until then, thank you and goodbye. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thank you for having me here. Have a nice continuation of the conference, guys.
Thank you. Take care now, Sargis. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.